All right, Jessica. The first thing I want to do is just say thank you so much for being here today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it too. It's a fun way to start the new year.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And just kind of want to jump right into,
Yeah.
usually I start like backtracking, but with
Okay.
you, I'm so excited about the show that I just
Aw,
want to get right into it. So,
okay. And I love talking about it. I love talking about it with people who have seen it because then I have questions for them as well. Because I think some of it can be open to interpretation, like
mm,
some of the stuff. So I'm excited that you're excited.
all right. Well, let's rock this thing then. So, I'm talking about, of course, Hysteria, and huge hit right now. And it was like ranked number one on Peacock, and people who were watching it on cable couldn't wait to see the next episode. And so, I just kind of want to know what was the process like for you getting into that role?
Like booking it or like
Yeah,
being Cassie, booking it?
both, both.
Both. Okay. So I had heard whispers of a show coming to Atlanta where I currently live. And it was, set against the Satanic Panic. So already I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like I'm intrigued. And the fact that it got straight it was picked up. It wasn't like a pilot and then we're going to test the waters. It was like straight to series. So whenever a show is also straight to series, that's exciting because like people on board, the network, the studio, they're already so excited that like we're just going to give it a full season order. So I'm like, okay, this series is coming. How do I get to be a part of this? And I knew that two of the producers, Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly, I had just read an article about them in the Hollywood Reporter. I literally cut it out. I put it on my refrigerator because I was like, I want to be on this. Now, I knew nothing about the show. I didn't even know if there was a part that someone like me could audition for, but I was just like, this I would like to be on this. And this has only happened to me a couple times in my career where like I'll read about something and I'm just like, I need to be in that. Like I don't know how, but I need to be in that. And that's kind of how I got this feeling about it. And I got the opportunity to read for this role first, Cassie, but her name was actually Katie back then. And I loved her. She's a little bit of me. She's a little spicy. She's a little she's very authentic. She says it how it is. She's smart. She's grounded. And I went in and I put it on tape, and I was like, I don't even feel like I'm acting. Like I'm just saying the line. It's also amazing writing. Anytime there's amazing writing, you don't feel like you're acting because it's just very, very easy and fluid. So I read for it. Didn't hear anything. Then I am asked to read a smaller role, a
Mm.
co-star, and I'm like, well, shit, that sucks. But like, hey, they like me, like they're bringing me back to play. All right, like I'll read for this much smaller role, but okay, sure. I read for it, don't hear anything. Then I'm asked to read for another co-star, a recurring co-star. I'm like, all right, well, they really don't like me for the big role. That's fine. I'll read for it again. I'll read for the other one. So I remember reading this is three times now. And it's always a compliment when you get asked to read for it. And you try not to get attached, even though I was like, I really want the role of Katie. But like, okay, I can still play this other role, and at least I get to be part of this world.
Hmm.
So I'll never forget. I had just taped the third audition and I wore like an 80s outfit because I was like, might as well, third time's a charm, whatever, I'll get into it. And I had to go to the mechanic or something wrong with my car. And my agent calls immediately and she's like, hey, so you remember that show, Hysteria? I'm like, you mean the one I like just read for 5 minutes ago? Yeah, I remember. And she was like, okay, yeah. Well, they want you to retape. And I'm thinking, I just turned it in. They watched it that fast? Like, great. Okay, what do they want? No, they want you to retape for the role of Katie. This was
Oh,
like 2.5 weeks before. I had forgotten about it. I was like, it's just not meant to be. I go in, I redirect, I use the note that they had, I redirect. Then I find out I'm one of four. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is I've won, but you haven't won until you really get the part. But sure, I've won. And so then it was like the most then I was pinned. It was the most like excruciating weekend because it was Easter weekend. And when you're pinned, I think legally they have to like say, yes, we want you, or no, we don't. Thank you for your time.
yeah.
And I'm out in my yard and I'm doing yard work. I'm just trying to do anything to not think about this role because I want it so bad. I'm checking my email. I'm like, put the phone away. I'm just going to do yard work. I'm like listening to some podcast about murders, right? And I'm doing my yard work. And then I get a message on my Apple Watch, and it's from my agent. And it, like, you know how like the first line will show,
Yeah.
and it says, "I don't think we." And I'm like, oh, let me take off my gardening gloves. Let me like sit. And it goes, "I don't think we'll hear this weekend because it's Easter." And I'm like, okay. Like when I tell you, it was like such a roller coaster. And then when I finally booked it, it was like so uneventful because I think I had so much pressure. I don't know. I was very like, well, I also remember I went to a yoga class, and not to get like woo woo, but I went to a yoga class because I'm telling you, I'm trying to do anything to not think about it because I wanted this role so bad. And
Yeah.
there's only so much you can do. Like I did the audition, they liked me, I retaped it. Okay, I'm trying to do anything. So I go to a yoga class and I'm literally like laying down and, Shavasana or whatever. And I'm like, okay, universe, I'm just going to let it go. Like, I want the right person. I mean, believe me, I want it. I want
Yeah.
to be the right person. But like, I just like this project so much and I want it to succeed. So, like, I'm just going to let it go. Like, whoever's supposed to get it is going to get it. And I feel like it kind of gave me like a sense of peace. And then I think it was like 2 days later, I booked it and I was like,
Wow.
okay, awesome. Like, and then I didn't even go to set for like 3 weeks. So then I'm like, did I book it? Did they forget about me? Did they recast me? And then I found out who my daughter was, and I found her on Instagram, and I like took a screenshot and I sent it to my friends. And I'm like, oh my God, my daughter is so gorgeous. She's like a model. Like, oh my God. And then I messaged her and I was like, hi, you don't know who I am, but I think I'm playing your TV mom. Like such a weirdo. But then later she told me she did the same thing. She
Oh,
like
wow.
screenshot and sent it to her, or like showed her parents, like, oh my God, look at my mom. She's so pretty. And I was like, what? Like,
That is fantastic. What a
it was
story.
so sweet. I was like, she's gonna think I'm such a creeper, like sliding in her DMs, like, hey girl, I think I'm playing your TV mom. But I really am. Like, I really am. It's not a line. Like, God.
Oh my God, that is great. What a story that is.
It
And
was
you,
Yeah, it was kind
it,
of wild, and my agent even tells it now as like a encouraging story of like I could have said no along the line too, right? Like I had a beautiful opportunity to audition for Cassie,
mhm,
and it was a recurring guest star. And then I thought I didn't get it, and then they asked me to read for these co-stars, and I could have, I could have had my ego. I could have said, no, I don't want that. I wanted this big one. And if they didn't want me, well, fuck them. And it was just like, no, I really want to be a part of this. Like, I will be a fly on the wall. Like, I'll be a dead body. Like, what can I do? And my agent says, like, he's proud of me. And he also tells other actors, like, you just never know. Like, you never know when you say yes and when you're just up for it. And I never in a million years thought that Cassie would come back. Like,
mhm.
so I'm not done playing her. I hope that we have a season 2 because I really like her.
Yeah. Well, that was, I'm glad you said that because that was kind of like a follow-up for me. So the
Yeah.
show, it was a smash hit. Like there's no doubt about it. Like as soon as
Mhm,
it came out, it was doing amazing on Peacock, and people
mhm.
couldn't wait to see the next episode. And I know I binged the whole thing in 2 days.
Did you?
And that's insane because I have a super hectic lifestyle. So I like so
Well,
I
thank you.
made time.
Thank you for your time. I thank you
Oh,
for eyes on it. The algorithm thanks you.
yeah, right. Well, I'm thanking you for such a
Oh,
great show. And so is there any rumblings about season 2? Have you heard any? Are you allowed to say anything?
it's not that I'm allowed or not allowed. We really don't know. I
Oh, okay.
mean, the show the show is so smart, and you could replace all of us actors. I mean, I hope you don't, but it's the writing. The
Mhm,
writing, our showrunner, Matthew Scott Kane, like I remember when we were on strike and we had shot 3 episodes, and we don't know if we're coming back. We don't
mhm,
know if we're all going to be replaced by AI, right? Like we don't know the state of the industry. Like there is so much unknown. And I
mhm,
remember just being like, God, this sucks because this is such a good show. And if this doesn't happen, like this really sucks. And during the hiatus, I went back and I reread all the scripts. And
mhm,
I'm just like, because I'm like, well, I don't know, like, did I just want it so bad that I thought it was really good? It's like, you're like, was I being subject? I don't know. Was I
mhm,
being biased? And I went back and I reread them. And I was like, no, these are really fucking good. Like, these are okay. So I was like, even if there's a strike, even if like Peacock goes under, whatever, like we're gonna be okay. We're gonna find another home because the writing
Mm.
is so good. I would read a script before other castmates and I would finish it and be like, who can I call? Have you read this? Can we talk about it? Can we dissect it? Can we not being able to tell my family and my
Mm.
agents about stuff, I would be like, hey, so I know you don't want to know, but I was covered in blood today. Do you want to know why? And they'd be like, no. I'm like, oh, like I had to sit on these secrets for like a year. And I'm like, can we talk about it now? And they're like, no, let me watch it. Like, let me experience it in real time. And I'm like, like, I was, and that's how we all were. Like, I'll never forget. So we were getting the scripts. We wouldn't know what was happening, right? And we're like, do we die? Who died? Like, we don't know. I hope I don't die, but like you never know, right?
Mhm.
So I'll never forget. I think we were doing reshoots after the strike for 102, which is Ryan Hudson's funeral. I think it
Mhm.
was that one. Or if it wasn't that one, I don't know why Kiara was there. But Kiara, who plays Jordy, she had
Mhm.
just gotten the next script, which I think was 105, 106. They're all kind of getting confused. But so anytime anyone would get a script, you'd be like, what was it? Am I in it? And also like, what happened? Like, tell me what happened. And I will never forget. It was Kiara explaining it. And so she's doing like a Cliff's note. She's like, okay, so your dad walks in and they're like, trying to have like an orgy or something. And like, that's crazy. So then this happens. And then, this and this. And then, oh yeah. And then Julie cuts your ear off. And then I'm like, hold on. I'm thinking she's making this stuff up because it's so like, I would have believed, but I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Bring that part back. And she's like, yeah, it's so cool. Like you get your ear cut off. And I'm like, but, but like for real? Like I don't know if you're screwing with me right now. Like, cause I will believe you. Like it was just so we never knew what was gonna happen.
Yeah.
And which is why like I'm so excited about a season two, but I'm also like a little terrified because like I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, are we all back? Is it set in the future? Is it set in the past? Like we don't know. Um, but I think that's also why like we were all just so excited to be there and to learn about it in real time too and to be like what is happening like when I would see the footage of Julie going through the glass table I'm like that is so cool like what you guys filmed that like it was just such a I don't know it was such a fun time.
That's so cool. And I want to so you said something if season 2 like what if it's set in the future and
It
whatnot.
better
So
not be
yeah, right, right. And
unless it's
I
like 6 months and then we're okay but
right, and I agree with that for because, I'm an 80s guy. So
okay
like I love the 80s hair metal, I love 80s horror movies.
and we're
I
only
love
getting started on that like I hope that it goes to like the heavy metal, like, LA stuff, like grunge or
yes,
not grunge, I'm saying it
not
backwards,
grunge. Yeah,
but the
yeah.
hair bands.
Yeah, the hair bands,
Yeah,
exactly. And like,
yeah.
so that's really what caught me at first. You put on the first episode of something and you just need something to grab your attention.
Mhm.
And immediately, me being the hair metal guy that I am, was like, oh, this is going to have a great
It
soundtrack.
caught you, like, right away.
Yeah, yeah. And then I see the 80s aesthetic, and then,
Yeah,
and it has that 80s horror movie vibe,
yeah,
and everything just screamed, this is the 80s, which really appealed to me. And, like,
yeah,
we don't know each other, but even as my professional wrestling career, I'm an
yeah.
80s rock star, and, like,
Okay.
the music that I put out is very 80s influenced
Yeah.
music. So it grabs me in. And so now I guess my question for you is that stuff that you were already interested in, or is it something that, is just kind of part of the aesthetic of the show and it just worked for you? Like, were you an 80s horror fan? Were you an 80s music fan?
So this is embarrassing. I had never seen Evil Dead,
Wow.
and I told Bruce, as one does why, I was like, it's another story. So I don't know if I would say like I'm a horror fan, but then
Mhm.
it's funny because I think that there's gradients of horror. Because I've had conversations about this with people recently, and I'm like, oh, I don't like horror. Like, you couldn't pay me to go to a haunted house. I do not want
Okay.
people touching me with chainsaws. Like, no. But I love all the Mike Flanagan stuff. I love, like, I feel like I saw something recently and people were like, oh, then you like horror. Like I saw Immaculate. I'll watch,
Mm.
like I want to see Heretic or
Hmm.
Heretic, however you say it. Like I want to see I like M. Night Shyamalan stuff, but like I don't want to see I don't want to see. Oh, I also saw Hereditary. So see, maybe
Oh
so
yeah.
I watched them. I don't know, but I don't like, and I love Scream. Okay, maybe I do like horror.
Yeah, I was gonna say you keep
Like,
adding to your list here, so you
hold
are a
on.
horror movie fan.
I love The Purge. Okay, I don't know. Maybe I guess when I think of like I've never seen Poltergeist. Isn't that
Mm.
really scary?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Never seen that. I've seen the remake of It. I've
Okay.
seen The Exorcist, not a fan, but I also saw that when I was like 16 and it gave me nightmares. I also
Scariest
like
movie of all time.
don't want to ever watch that again.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I also think I don't want to watch like The Strangers. Isn't that one based on a true
Mm-hmm.
story?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
it
I
is.
think like Scream is a slasher. Like that's not real. Like my brain can delineate like that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's like the based on the true. I don't know. Anyway, so the horror, I'm just happy to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I love working. And horror is a really cool, fun genre because from this show, now I've also learned I did another horror movie called VHS Viral, but like the horror fans will love you forever. And they're
Yes.
very cool because I've learned from this show also all the Easter eggs
Mm.
with, this person was in this horror movie and they did this. And so it's like, it must be like, and I just spaced on her name from Millie Shapiro from Hereditary. Like she's
Mm.
in it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it must be so cool as a fan of horror to like it's genius. Oh, one of our directors directed Blair Witch Project. Also, I have
Mm.
seen that. Okay, I low key like horror. I don't know, low key I like horror. But I mean, it's very like so. It's very cool to be in that horror world,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't seek it out. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I'm in it, and like I would kill to be invited to like a Comic Con or any of that stuff. Like it'd be so cool, and mostly because I think TV and film is a form of escapism.
Yeah.
You're having a bad day. Maybe your dog got hit by a car. You might want to smoke or drink, or you might want to binge like your favorite show or something like that. And so I love that it can be like, oh, like, you loved this show so much. Like, I just think it's cool that it can help people.
Yeah.
And then the 80s aesthetic, I mean, that's just, I got lucky because, like, who doesn't want to do something in the 80s, especially like post Stranger Things? Like, everyone wants to, are you kidding?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I was
Absolutely.
just pissed I didn't have big bangs. I really wanted big, like, I was like, you guys sure you don't want to cut any? Like, yeah, I wanted like some big, like Kelly Kapowski bangs from Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
wanted.
I love
Mhm.
that.
And I would
No.
listen to 80s music on the way to set to like get
Okay.
into, yeah.
So that was going to be my next thing. So
Yeah.
as far as 80s music goes, hair bands or pop?
I would listen to pop. I would totally
Okay.
listen to like Whitney Houston, the Bangles. Like I would just
Oh.
listen on Spotify. It would be like a set list. Madonna. And then I
Hmm.
also started to dabble. I knew of the Satanic Panic, but I think I was born in 84, so like I didn't
Hmm.
like my 80s. I remember having like matching spandex little outfits with my cousin that were neon, like, and then a side scrunchie on your shirt and like a side ponytail. Like that's like the extent of my 80s knowledge, right? Like I just
Uh,
didn't, I was too little. And so I remember hearing of the Satanic Panic, and I
mhm.
always thought it was more like the rock and roll is the devil stuff. Like
Yeah.
I always thought it was like Ozzy Osbourne and the Bat. Like it was that correlation,
Hmm.
and I wanted to I was just curious about it. So I did listen to a couple podcasts, but then I stopped because I was also like, I don't want this to, I don't know, like change my perspective with my character. Cause it's like, it hasn't happened yet in this
Yeah.
world. It's all very new, but I was just trying to kind of educate myself. And some of that stuff was wild.
Yeah.
The
So
people being accused, like there was some, I think it was in the might have been in the UK. It's a podcast, but it was this like daycare, and these kids who like can't even really speak because they're children. They were accusing their teachers of like touching them inappropriately and saying the devil, and like and they all got arrested. Like it was just, which is hysteria. And you can see the
yeah.
fear. I mean, it was really fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like you were relatively the same age, so like I was too young to remember like when
Yeah,
that happened, but
yeah.
I'm so immersed in just 80s culture now that it
Okay.
just it just captivated me. I was born in 87, so
So when you say you're immersed in 80s culture, like
mhm.
you're listening to a Walkman.
I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I like vinyl.
Oh,
um,
okay. But I mean,
you
like,
know.
like I love 80s music,
Yeah, oh
but
yeah, me too.
like, I'm trying to think. I'm like, what else is 80? But like, I don't really want to watch like 80s TV.
So I will.
You do?
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Okay.
And before that too. Like, my favorite TV shows are going back to like the '60s, Dick Van Dyke and the Munsters and
Oh,
stuff like
okay.
that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
like as far as '80s culture, like I have a very '80s aesthetic, the way that I look, and I,
Okay.
out with the hair bands and
Yeah.
going to all those shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And again, professional wrestler. When I come to the ring, you go, oh, he's an '80s rock star. Like you could just tell,
Yeah.
and
That's fun.
so that's kind of my thing. So again, it drew
Yeah.
me in, and then
Yeah.
of course I see Bruce Campbell, and being the guy who
I'm like,
loves,
who's this guy?
yeah, you're going, who's this? And I'm this huge
Hi, nice to
80s.
meet you. Bruce, is it? I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah, exactly.
He
Exactly.
doesn't know me either. You know what? We're on even playing field. I'm kidding.
So Evil Dead 1 and 2, two of my favorite movies of all time, especially the second one.
Yeah.
And so I see him, and what was it like? You said you weren't really familiar with his work, but he's a legend, and
He's amazing.
he's got a lot of knowledge, so I'm assuming you got to learn from him.
Yes. And so I will say, I was fangirling about Julie Bowen. Julie
Mm,
Bowen is so funny. And she was like higher on the call list than Bruce. So it's like her show, kind of, if you will.
yeah,
And she is a mom. She's has however many Emmys and Globes, and she was on Martha.
yeah.
Like, I just think she is so real and she's grounded. And I'm like, oh my God, I would love to like be her when I grow up. So I'm sitting in the first episode. I didn't have a scene with Bruce. The second one I did. And it's funny. Oh, this is funny. So he wasn't cast yet. Julie was cast pretty late. Anna was already cast. Julie was
Mhm.
cast. And then I remember it was listed in the trades, like in Deadline, like Julie Bowen has just been attached for Hysteria. And I
Mm,
texted my agent. I'm like, we're still in the running. They cast a blonde. Okay. I can still, because, no, everyone's got to look different, right?
yep, of
And
course.
then I was cast, but we didn't know originally in the audition, I didn't know who Chief Dandridge was. Was he my
Mm,
dad? Was he my uncle? Was he my brother? Was he my grandfather? Was he my husband? Like,
hmm,
we just have the same last name. I had no idea. So
yeah,
I'm over here thinking they're gonna cast like John Stamos. Like, he'll be my dad or my uncle. Like, we kind of we like look like each other. Like, oh, we favor each other.
yeah.
And so when they cast Bruce Campbell, and I'm like, I don't know who this man is. And I look him up and I'm like, Burn Notice? I don't know. He did some episode. Like, I'm embarrassed to say it. And I have told him this. So like whatever. But
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't know who this man is. Like, that's
yeah.
so crazy. He's really worked a lot, but okay, like that's weird. And so I remember right before I got to set, or a couple days before, an email goes out to everyone and it says the role of, I think his name is Ben, the role of Ben Chief Dandridge is no longer Cassie's brother. It is now her father. And I was like, oh,
Mm,
that's funny. Cause like just age what? Like, okay,
hmm,
that makes more sense. But so we're on set. And again, I don't know who he is.
yeah.
But Julie Bowen is back there. And I'm like, how do I
Who's
say hi to her?
And
And
she's equally as amazing.
Anna
So,
Camp is over here. And I'm like, who is this old man? Like, I don't know who he is. Like, okay, he's funny. And we were just laughing and like we were joking. Like, he was really funny. We had a great day.
mhm,
And we're in the scene for Ryan Hudson's funeral. There's like 200 extras, right?
yeah,
And it was a long day. We were sitting
mhm.
for a long time. And some of the extras would come up and they'd be like, excuse me, hi, Mr. Campbell. Hi, so nice. It's an honor. So nice to meet you. And they're shaking his hand. And I'm like, but Julie Bowen is back. Who are you? Like, I'm like, who are you? I don't understand. Like, I don't understand. And I don't say that. I'm just like thinking, I'm like, okay, like, all right, like people like him.
That's
People
great.
really like him. Okay. And then so like I go home and like do some digging and I'm like, oh, okay, he was in something called The Evil Dead. Again, I don't know what this is. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. But it's also so great because I'm not method, but it's like I was because I'm just like, what? This guy, he's just my dad. Whatever. Because I wasn't starstruck. Like,
Yeah.
had it been someone that I'd been like, I was just like, you're a goober. Like, okay. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. He's the best. So the next day I come to set and I'm like, hey Bruce, so we're friends, right? And he like looks at me, he's like, I go, we're friends. We're friends. We're friends now. I'm playing your daughter. We're friends. And he's like, Go on. I'm like, okay, well, I apologize. I'm just being honest. I have not seen any of the Evil Deads, but in my defense, like I don't gravitate towards horror. So could you, but I would like to support you. So, do I need to watch them in order? Is one scarier than the other? Because he had mentioned like the new Evil Deads are very scary, and he's more
Hmm.
of like a producer on those, I guess.
Hmm.
And so he kind of looks at me and he's like, "All right, start with the third." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I don't need to watch them in order." He goes, "No, start with the third, and then if you can get through that one, then you can go to the second, and then you can go to the first." And this is my favorite thing he said. He goes, "But I don't need your support. It's been out. It's been out for a really long time." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna watch him now." Like, but he's just like that. Like, he's really goofy and he's really like, he's very sarcastic and he's very like, we have like inside bits and stuff. But talking about learning from him,
Hmm.
it was so cool because he has been in the DGA, so directors, PGA producers, WGA writers, and SAG. So he's, has decades long
Yeah.
career and knowledge. So we'd be sitting and he'd be like, "Okay, so there's a camera over there in the bush. Okay, you see that camera hidden in the bush? Yeah. And then there's one over there, and then there's this, and then this, and then they're gonna do a two shot, and they're gonna do a flip." And I'd be like, "Uh huh. Is this like you got your director's hat on now, or like you tell me to find my light as an actor?" Like I was just like, Okay, but like, huh? Like, what do you?" I'm trying to understand like what you're like. His brain is just always, and it was really cool because he'd be like, "Yeah, if I were to shoot this, I would have done it this way, and I've done this," and like, "Oh, but that's okay. They did it this way, like that." Like it's just he's not just an actor,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I don't know any of those lenses. I don't know any of that stuff. And I was like, "Oh, I feel like I should be learning a lot more right now." Like it was really fascinating. And he'd be like that forever. He would always know like where's this and where's this and where's this. And he was like the technical part.
Hmm.
Um and I really enjoyed hanging out with him. And he was I mean, I love Julie too, don't get me wrong, but like Bruce I would also like press his buttons because I would just know, like because it was funny. And so I'd be
Hmm.
like he would I'd be like, "Let's take a selfie." He's like, "I don't want to take a selfie." I'd be like, "Okay, great." And he would like flick off the camera, so then I'd flick it off too. And I'd be like, "I don't care." Like I would just kind of, I don't know. Like he reminds me of my dad. Like he's like a little grumpy, but he just needs like a little push. And I'd be like, "Bruce, you look so handsome today, Bruce. Did you sleep well?" He'd be like, "Mm." Like, like it was just like I like to just, I don't know, like press him. But I miss him. We email. I don't text him. I was afraid to ask for his phone number, but we email. And he'll email me like 2 weeks later, and then we email back and forth. And he's just, I really like him, and I really hope I get to work with him again. And I always email him, "Hi, TV dad," and he never says "Hi, TV daughter" back. Never.
We're just gonna send him the clip of you saying, "I was too
Please.
afraid to ask for his number," so that he just gives it to you.
He might be like, "Yeah, damn straight. That's why I didn't give it to her." No, he's so great. And then also like it's embarrassing to say, but I guess I was learning in real time about his enormous body of work and how when
Yeah.
friends would find out, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm working with this guy, Bruce Campbell." People either know exactly who he is and they're like,
Hmm.
"Oh shit." And they'll know him from like each person knows him from a different part of his
Yeah.
career. "Oh, the guy in all the Superman or Spider-Man movies who does the thing and da da da." And I'm like, "Okay." They're like the hot dog vendor. I'm like, "Maybe." And they're like, or one guy's like, "A burn notice." It's like he's worked for so long.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. And it's like, man, we could be so lucky to continue to work that long. And I think it's probably cool for him because since he is in the horror lane, I mean, I didn't know about Evil Dead, so I can't imagine that everyone watching Hysteria did. So it's kind of cool for him
Hmm.
to have like a new fan base. I
Yeah.
would think. I don't know. I just spoke on his behalf, but that's what I would think, right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I think you're right about that. I really do. And we're talking about a lot of the behind the scenes here. So when you actually, started watching it back and seeing the episodes back and all that,
Yeah.
was it what you expected? Were you like, "Oh my God, this is even cooler than I thought," or like what were you
Like
thinking?
That's a really good question. So some of us got to see, we did like a cast and crew screening for the first episode in
Oh.
LA, and we were nervous just because even though it's really good on paper and you have all the right ingredients and editing, it could be like, oh, that was a choice. Like you just never know ultimately how it's going to turn out. And we
Hmm.
were all blown away. We were all like we needed time to like marinate and decompress and just be like, that was so good.
Oh,
Also,
that's awesome.
I did not know. I'd read every script, okay? I'd read
Hmm.
every script twice, maybe 3 times. I did not know how horrifyingly scary those masks were gonna be.
Ah.
Wi So in the script, it just says masked man. So I'm
Hmm.
thinking like a ski mask.
Hmm.
Those masks were so scary. Like, I was like, "Oh my god, maybe this is a really scary show." Because I kept telling people, I'm like, "I mean, it's not like that scary. It's like I'm like, "Oh, oh, terrifying." I mean, it was really cool to see it all come together, and also because when we're working, we're only working on the day on that scene. So like I
Hmm.
hadn't got to see any of the I call them kids, they're in their 20s. Any of the kids like play their instruments, which they really did. And so
Hmm.
seeing them in that scene, I remember being like, "Oh, that's awesome." And like they killed it. And like what a fun day. And like I never got to work with the goat or the cat or like things like that. So then watching it, I'm like, there was a real goat. Oh my God. Why didn't you tell me? I would have come to set that day. Like it's fun to see stuff and be like, oh, you guys really set that shit on fire. Like I thought maybe it would be like CGI. Like it's just cool to see how all this stuff turns out later.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of it. I've been acting since I was 12, and this is something that I'm like, I I'm probably most proud of this than other things that I've worked on, just because I think it's really detail oriented. Everything from, oh my gosh, one day they had me the day Julie cuts my ear,
Hmm.
I'm
Yes.
wearing these like culottes, which are like capri pants. And I remember like getting ready to go to set, and someone from costumes wardrobe comes up to me and they're like, "Oh, did you find the pantyhose in your trailer?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's so nice, thank you, but I'm not that cold." And they go, "I no, it was the '80s. You have to put on pantyhose." And I was like, "Oh, that wasn't for me." So I wear pantyhose. You can't even tell that I'm wearing pantyhose, but it was like that's what I'm saying. It was like so detail oriented and so
Yeah.
authentic to like the time and the this. And it's like, I think when people and anything in life,
Hmm.
when you take the time and you put the work, it's gonna come out great, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
anything worth doing takes time. I don't know, I messed that one up. But so it's like I just feel like the level of work that people put into it, the level of like authenticity, the fact that the kids went to like band camp and learned it's just like everyone was all in. So
Hmm.
of course it's going to turn out great. But then the fact that it's like, oh, it really turned out great. It's like the icing on the cake. Cause it's like we've all, as actors, we've all been parts of stuff where we're like, you don't need to watch that.
Yeah.
You're good. No, 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 no. It's fine. No, no, no. Like, mom, dad, nope, you don't get that channel. It's okay. But this, I'm like, have you watched it? And if not, why not? Because I'm so proud of it. Like, watch it.
Oh yeah, and as you should be. It's again, I'll keep, and I'm not just blowing smoke here because I'm talking to you. It's phenomenal, and your character is phenomenal, and you do a great job playing that role.
Thank you.
And you touched on Bruce having like this big body of work, but then you
Yeah.
also touched on how you started doing this when you were 12. You also have a very large body of work,
Oh,
and there was a few things that I wanted to bring up
yeah.
from your past, and
Okay.
one of them you kind of touched on really quickly, so I'll just
Okay.
go back to that. But
Yeah.
VHS Viral was really good,
Yeah.
and you were in that. So, and was that the first time you were involved in something horror like, or
Yes.
so?
Yes. And a friend of mine, he was more in the he's a director. His name is Greg Bishop, and so he did Dance of the Dead, which is I don't know if you've seen that. It's great. Have you seen it?
Yes,
So that's like a cult classic, right?
yes.
My
Hmm.
friend Blair Redford and Lucas Till and Grayson are all in it, and I actually auditioned for it. Didn't get it. That's fine. So he like Greg, I think he's in like the horror world, and
Hmm.
so for VHS Viral, I don't know how that works, but I know it was like an anthology which with a bunch of different directors.
Mhm,
And so I got to work with him on that. And my part wasn't quote unquote like scary, but I did have to do my own stunts, which was kind of fun, like being thrown around in
mhm.
this shower. And then I
Yes.
did learn something that day that made horror films a lot less scary. I don't know if it was our bit. It must have been our bit because Dante the Great. So you know how when people are like possessed on camera and they're like thrown all around, like in the bed and stuff,
Yes.
the mattress was gone and like she was just running all around. And I was like, oh, you
Mm.
fix it in post. But it was like, it was very eye opening to be like, oh, okay, things aren't as scary as but like until you see how the sausage gets made,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. But I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Just never really cared to think about it that much.
Well, here's this is not a horror movie, but here's another movie that I loved that I know that you worked on
Mhm.
was Let's Be Cops.
I love that movie. I
That
feel like it's
movie,
so underrated.
it,
It's
I was,
so funny.
we are on the same page because every time I'm going to say something, you say it first. That
Oh,
is that is an underrated movie. It's
it's
so
so
good.
funny.
Oh my God. I mean, that had to be a fun project for you.
It was fun, and also, like, I would try to go to set when I could just to, like, go and see, like, Damon Wayans and Jake Johnson just
Yep.
riff. Just like, oh, it was so fun. It was also at the height of New Girl, so,
Yes.
they were very famous, and just to be a part of that, I was supposed to have 2 scenes, one ended up getting cut, but at least one was in it, and it was just it's such a funny movie. I don't know why
Yeah.
like, it still gets me when I'm gonna paraphrase it, but Jake Johnson's like, "Yeah, look at this car. Like, got this police car." And he's like, "Where'd you get that?" "eBay, dude." And it's, like, just so funny to me, just like, what? Like, I don't know, I think that movie is so funny. I
Oh,
I
it's great.
I really enjoyed that movie. I'm glad
It
that you enjoy it because I don't think as many people watch it as should have. Like, I feel like
no.
I don't know.
I totally agree, and the reason why I watched it is because those two were starring in it, and I saw
Yeah,
them on the cover, and I
yeah.
was like, I got to see that.
I would watch anything that they do,
I
any
agree.
of the New Girl cast. Like, I'm
Yeah.
friends with Lamore, and anything he does, I'm like, yes, I will watch you. And like, to
Mhm.
work with it, I mean, they're so funny and they're
Oh, it's great.
kind. So to like be on set with good energy is amazing because you're
Hmm.
working really long hours and you can see an unpleasant side of yourself if you're hangry or really tired. And like, I just remember it was probably one of the biggest movies at the time that I had done, like, biggest I don't remember if I had done House yet or not, because like, House was, like, a pretty big, like, production,
You
but
beat
I
me
just
again.
remember, like, Jake and Damon Wayans Jr., like, setting the tone like, they were just so nice, and it was, like, such a f sometimes you go to set and you're like, "Did someone die? Like, what why?" Like, the energy is just off. I can't explain it. It's like walking into the room after your parents just were in a big fight, and you're like, "Whoa," like, "Something off here?" Sometimes you show up to set and you get that. And like House was amazing. Let's Be
Mhm.
Cops was amazing. Like it's just interesting. Like you never know what you're gonna walk into because I'm not there every day. I'm fortunate enough to come in briefly. Would love to be there longer, but you know what I mean? And so it's like you never know what you're getting thrown into. And I
Mhm.
just remember like it was so fun. And it was a night shoot and it was like raining because it's Atlanta and it always rains, but it was just like am I really here? Is this really happening? Like, this is so cool. Like, it was just, I was, and I remember I'm 95% sure I booked that because I had an audition and then I had to fly back in town for the callback. And it was between me and one other person. And in the
Mhm.
callback, he wanted us, I don't even know if he wanted us to improvise, but I did improvise, being like a snooty door girl. And I was
Mhm.
living in LA at the time. And so I was in Atlanta, but I'm just like, going off like, "Oh, do you have bottle service? Oh, do you think you can come in with wearing shoes like that? Oh, yeah, you're on the list? I don't think so." Like, I just kept and, like, I was so grateful because I don't think I would have had that wherewithal to say those things if I was had still been living in Atlanta,
Mm.
but coming from LA and, like, I went out in my 20s and did all that stuff, so it was like, I knew the things to say. And I was just embodying like people I'd seen at the door, like looking
Yeah.
people up and down. And I remember leaving the room and I ran into another friend of mine who had just worked on something. And he goes, they're still laughing in there. He's like, you fucking booked it. Like, they're
Wow.
still laughing. And I was like, oh, we'll see. But like, you never know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it just felt so like, okay, I won the room, which is as much as you can do. But then to book it, that was like, oh. I remember when I booked it too. I used to nanny in between acting jobs in LA, and now
Mhm.
they're like my little brothers. But I'm picking them up from school in Calabasas, this bougie school. And I just get off the phone and I'm like, you guys, I just booked a movie. And they go, do you have lines? Is it an indie? Is it a
Wow.
studio film? Oh, are you going to be an extra? And I was like, oh my God, like, because their dad's a manager. So they know like the lingo. But I was like,
Yeah.
wow, tough crowd.
Yeah. Oh my
Not like,
God. That's
congratulations, they're so cool. It was, are you going to have
yeah.
any speaking lines?
Yeah. And anywhere else, any other kids would have been like, amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool. Even if you didn't have speaking lines, you're in a
Yeah.
movie.
Yep.
That's awesome. Not these kids. Not these kids.
Well, well, you beat me to it again because my next thing I was going to bring up was House,
Oh, okay.
and such an iconic show,
Yeah,
and you got to be a part of that,
I
and
did. The
and
last
that is
season.
and that's forever on your resume. And
Yeah.
again, I just want to tell my listeners too, who are discovering Hysteria and
Mhm.
whatever, that you do have a really big body of work, and if they can go back and watch some of the things that you've done, you
Yeah.
do a great job in everything.
Thank
So
you. I appreciate that. Another thing that I'm on too, if people feel like watching, is it's Johnson, and it started out on Bounce, but it's on. Where did I just catch you? Did I? Sorry. And now it's on Hulu for 4 seasons, and we're waiting for a fifth season. We just don't know yet. But I'm
yeah.
really proud of that show too. And I think the thing I love the most is that it shoots in Atlanta, and Atlanta is very much a character, which I love
Mhm.
because a lot of times, like Let's Be Cops shot in Atlanta, but they were pretending it was LA.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Johnson is Atlanta. They go to Stone Mountain. They go to Slutty Vegan. They make references to Atlanta things, Atlanta culture, Atlanta strip clubs, like all sorts of stuff. And it's just cool because it's like, I don't know, being from here too. I'm like, oh, that's my state. Like, oh, like
Mhm.
that's cool.
And right now too, like you just mentioned, that's on Hulu.
Hmm.
So you're killing it on Hulu and you're killing it on Peacock right now, which are two of the biggest streaming services out there. And everybody's got
Oh,
those. So please, guys, if you're listening and you haven't watched these shows yet, go check them out, please.
thank you.
Um, Now, here's something I'm going to get into that you couldn't
Yeah.
possibly beat me to because you don't know this is coming.
Okay.
So this is what we do here when we have somebody on for the first time. It's a
Okay.
lightning round. So
Oh,
I'm just going to ask you a bunch of random questions for the listeners to get to know you just on a more
okay.
personal level, and they have nothing to do with anything.
Oh, great. Okay.
So, first question: are we choosing Chicago or New York style pizza?
Oh, New York.
Good answer.
Okay.
Dinner or dessert
Like for the rest of my life or just
in
for
general?
what?
Like,
Um,
what do you prefer to have?
Probably actually dinner.
All right. How about log cabin or a beach house?
Beach house.
All right, this is going to be one for my listeners, so I hope you answer correctly for them.
Oh no! No pressure.
Horror movies or romantic comedies?
I feel like you want me to say horror movies.
That's what I want you to say, but what's the truth?
What about a horror com? A
I will
hybrid.
take that.
A
I will take
hybrid of
that.
a horror. Are there horror rom-coms?
There's horror comedies for sure, so we'll take that.
Okay, horror comedies.
You
Well,
want a horror?
Hysteria is like a horror comedy.
It is, and if you want a horror rom-com, you could watch Tucker and Dale versus Evil. There's a little plug right there.
Okay.
All right, here's one that's this could hurt me, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Do you prefer rock and roll or pop?
I thought you were gonna ask me about wrestling. I'm
Should I?
gonna say rock and roll.
All right. I don't know if I believe you, but I'm just gonna pretend I do, and we're
I
gonna keep
really
going.
like everything. It depends on the vibe that I'm in. It depends on the mood. I've been listening to Milli Vanilli recently.
Oh,
So random. But like I'll just be like, I forgot I like this band. I was listening to New Kids on the Block the other day,
oh,
but
there
then
you
I'll
go.
like alternate, like I just listen to whatever that day, I feel like. So I like rock and roll. I like pop. I don't really like country, but it's like I'll just go down a rabbit hole of like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I totally get that. So should I ask you a wrestling question? Because you got really scared when you thought that was coming.
I feel like my scope of knowledge for wrestling is from that TV show Heels,
Okay.
which
All
was
right.
really good.
It was really good, yeah.
And The Rock was a wrestler.
Yeah. So you're winning. You know some things.
Um,
Is that where it stops?
we should stop there. No,
Yeah.
just kidding. Oh, actually, I auditioned for it. I didn't book it, and I watched a documentary about Christy Martin, and she
Mm.
is amazing. What a badass woman.
All right. You passed. You passed. I don't. You were nervous for what?
I was. I don't know. I guess just because. Well, also, I get confused with like wrestling and
Mm.
MMA and
MMA. Yeah.
like all the different nuances. Like I
I
don't
gotcha.
really understand, and like I don't understand the guy who just got a lot of money on Netflix, but like he's not really a wrestler, and or maybe he is. I don't know. I just feel like I'm not as educated. I feel like I know older stuff more than like current.
All right. That's fair. Now, would you say that you are a morning person or a night person?
I'm a night owl.
All right. And how about, do you have a favorite movie?
No, I don't have one favorite of anything. Like I have like 10.
Okay.
Like I
Fair.
can't, I get indecisive. I think it's the Libra in me. I'm like, maybe this or this. Like I just can't like what that's just not fair to movies. That's just not fair to me. Like I just can't know.
All right. Going back to Hysteria,
Mhm.
do you have a favorite scene that you got to film?
I really enjoyed any day on set, any day working, but
Mhm.
I will say what I didn't well, I enjoyed filming it too, but it's actually what happened like with the editing that I'm most tickled about is I don't remember, maybe it's episode 4 or something. It's when I'm hosting the cookout before the homecoming dance, and it's when I meet Julie Bowen and her husband and stuff. And I come up and introduce them, and things were scripted, but I also just like improvised some stuff. And I forgot that I improvised this, okay? And
Mhm.
then I had to go back and check the script because I was like, "Did oh no, I made that up. Oh my god, I'm so clever." I'm like, "Okay, bye. I'll see you about at the bar." And I go, "Don't forget to have some deviled eggs." There really were deviled eggs there. They've been sitting out all day. I would have not eaten them. But like devil, satanic panic,
Yeah.
hysteria. I'm so clever. But like I didn't mean to be so clever. I could have said, have some pretzels, have some hummus. And I was like, have some deviled eggs.
We call that foreshadowing.
I call that just like, I didn't know I was so clever and I should get a writing credit. And no, I'm just kidding. But I was like, is anyone picking up on this? Like, this is, well, I also think that there's foreshadowing, and I haven't talked to our showrunner about this, but in the first episode, when they ask what I do when I'm at work, who watches my kids, and I
Mhm.
say I keep my ears open and my eyes. Or put them on the TV. I turn the TV on and keep my ears open and hope nothing catches fire. And then later, my ear gets cut. Is that a coincidence? Also, I grab my daughter by her ear.
Mm,
I don't know,
you're
but like
tying
I
it
was
all
an English
together.
major, and usually there aren't coincidences. So
You're tying it all together. It makes perfect sense now.
yeah, yeah. I mean, or it's just lots of coincidences. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, it was probably easier to cut my ear off than like my nose. So I don't know.
Little bit,
Yeah,
yeah. Just judging from the scene, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
Probably so.
now, we already said we're not sure about what's going on with the season 2, but
We're hopeful.
we're hopeful.
We all
Now,
want one.
the fans want it. Like I'm
Yeah,
sure you guys all want it. The fans want it. I
yeah.
mean, it clearly is a smashing success. It's still doing great, and people are still
Hmm.
picking up on
I
it.
feel like more
Uh,
people are finding it. It's interesting.
yeah.
It's like um it did come out around I was gonna say the holidays around Halloween, and so I
Hmm.
feel like it was really advertised then, and we had a billboard in Times Square, and I think people knew about it, and then I feel like it was kind of like a slow burn, but
Hmm.
now other countries are picking it up and like airing
Hmm.
it, and I feel like people I'll look on Twitter and people are like, how come no one told me about this show? Like I just
Hmm.
found out about it. So it's really interesting. I feel like organically people are finding out about it, which is
Yeah.
exciting. But I wish more people would watch it.
And they will, because we
Good.
are going to promote the hell out of it. And
Good.
I hope to start seeing you at some conventions as well.
That'd be so
And
fun. Me and Brucey.
yeah, right next to each other, father and daughter.
Yeah, he'll be like, "Oh, great. Why is she here?" I'm just kidding. He's lovely. I literally tease him because he just reminds me of my dad. Like, he's just like,
He is your
and
dad.
he is my dad, but like, he's a little. I don't know. He's so sweet and he's so cute, but he's just like, he's like a little grumpy, but like in the best way. He'll be like, "Bruce, how you doing?" I don't know. He's just, he's so cute.
We're going to put
Maybe
you
edit
guys.
that part so you don't hear me call him grumpy.
Nope, I'm sending him all of this. I'm going to say, listen, would you like to do a follow up?
He probably will. He'll probably be like, you know what? I have some things I need to correct. So she didn't know who I was. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, so what's next for you in the meantime? Is there anything that you could tell us about? Is there anything that you're hopeful for? If not, we totally understand, but
Yeah.
let's just throw that out there.
Um, I don't know what's coming up because of the strikes. Things have
Hmm.
been really crazier than normal. I did have a part and I think I got cut, which is really annoying and frustrating in The Electric State, which is the new Millie Bobby Brown, Chris Pratt, Russo brothers epic movie that's coming out soon on Netflix.
Hmm.
And it's based on a graphic novel, and the graphic novel is really amazing. And it was also set in the 80s. And
Mm,
my scene was I had two scenes with Millie Bobby Brown, and apparently they like did a huge rewrite of a
mm,
bunch. So it's not like you can't take it personal, it just happens. But I was like super excited to be in that, and that was coming out or it is coming out this year. And then honestly, we're fingers crossed for season 2 of Hysteria, season 5 of Johnson.
hmm.
Um I really want to put this out there that I want to get a role on Scream 7 because that's filming in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I've worked with Marcos Siega before, who he did The Following, and Marcos is really good friends with Kevin Williamson, and Kevin Williamson. So I'm like, hi guys, can we? And Anna Camp is also going to be in Scream 7, so it could be, Cassie and Tracy reunion.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, there's also there's certain people like I would love to work with Jason Bateman. I
That's
would.
one of my favorites.
He's so like I don't even know if I'd want to be directed by him or act with him. Like I think both because
Hmm.
he's so funny, and I bet I just think he's very talented. Like, I
Yeah.
would really be excited to work with him. Like, I wanna work something on Blumhouse. Like, there's just so many different
Mm,
projects and so many things, but my ultimate goal is to be a series regular on a half-hour multicam for network TV, like a Friends.
mm, hmm.
So,
Ah, I
I'll
love
put that
that.
out there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
great. And by the way, there was a lot of horror movie related things that you just said, so I think you are a horror person now, whether
Who
you like it or
knew?
not.
I know, like, I know, when I say these things, I'm like, "Oh my
Hmm.
god, I'm dying to be in the Mike Flanagan universe." Are you
All right.
kidding me? His stuff is, like, amazing and beautiful and creepy and
Hmm.
bingeable and yeah, I
I
guess
love
I
it.
do like horror.
I think you do. You tried to lie to
You
us,
heard
but
it here, folks. She
yeah.
likes horror. She fought it for a really long time, but she just doesn't like haunted houses, but she likes horror.
Yes, this is going to be a big exclusive. That's going to be my headline. Now,
Oh my
before I get you out of here though,
yeah.
I want to make sure that new fans of yours can find you, see what you got coming up, and
Mhm.
when you start doing cons, they're going to want to see your flyers for your cons.
Okay.
So, can you just plug your social media and
Yeah.
that way they could follow, what's going on with you and what you're
Yeah.
appearing in next and all that.
Instagram is at Jess, Jess, Luza, Luza. I have a TikTok, literally don't remember my name because I'm not on it very much. So I'll work on that. But Instagram is mostly where I'm on.
All right, fair. And I got to tell you, it was super great having you here. You have such positive energy and you're so much fun.
Aw.
And you beat me to the punch on almost all my questions.
I feel awful. I feel like like one of my toxic qualities is like interrupting, and it's only because I get excited and I'm like, oh, like let me tell you, but I feel bad.
No, no, no. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Okay,
Trust me, because I mean, it was almost like in order. Like I had notes over here and I was taking notes here, and every time I either looked there or wrote something
you
down,
were
you
like, is
started
she a
talking about it.
witch?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
It's like speaking of horror.
yeah, you're like, well, you didn't know that I can see your screen, so I have a
Oh,
camera. No, I'm
yes,
just kidding. Like,
of course. How silly of
oh,
me.
it's just Black Mirror. I would love to be on that show too. See, there we go. All the horror. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. I guess I do like horror. Who
yeah. You're
knew?
gonna be doing conventions in like 6 months.
Well, I really want to be in the MCU, in the Marvel universe. Like, I want to play a badass something. Like,
I could see
during
that.
COVID, I got into watching that and watching it in
Mm.
order and was like, oh, like, sure, some of it's cheesy, but some of it's actually really clever. Like the way they
Yeah.
tie in the story. Like, I loved She-Hulk. I loved WandaVision. But like that's not horror, but it's still kind of like in that Comic Con vein. So,
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And those are like that's a lot of watching to like watch them all in order
oh,
too.
I
Because
didn't watch them all.
oh man,
I gave up.
I tried. I
I didn't really like Ant-Man, and then I started to be like, this
yeah
one sucks, and this one, like, I just started to, yeah. But I've
yeah
seen a third or
yeah
maybe a half. Like, I really committed, and then it was like they come out too. There's too many now. It's
yeah
oversaturated.
yeah.
Unless you're watching Marvel, and you guys are great, and you're not oversaturated, and you need someone like me, right, Kevin Feige? Yes, that's yes, and hire me and Bruce.
I love it. Yes, you and Bruce in a Marvel movie. I love it. And he's still your dad.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, you get
Oh,
it.
yep, I get it.
Did we
I'm
just
on
write
board.
something?
I think so. I'm telling you, I'm taking notes here.
This is amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you everything I got, and it'll happen.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. This was really fun.